Baruch haba shalom aleichem. Adi Anthony. Welcome and peace be multiplied to you. I'm Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sarid for this orientation series on the coming of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. This is a special gleaning section from the video 100, The Rise of Adonai Yahushua from the Midst. I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and esteem to Yahuwah Elohim as we look forward to the coming of his kingdom, and to his Ben Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach, whom we bear witness to for the Edut. He has also come along with us on this journey. To the Kodashim out there, Torah Rabbah, many thanks for your comments and for your support. If you're joining us here for the first time, you have come to the right place. Well, now that we are assembled, let's check in on our brother Daniel, because the message is urgent. Today, we will be gleaning the silver on the image that Daniel saw in the vision given to King Nebuchadnezzar. As we did for the gold, so we will do for the silver and look at the things in the visions that pertain to it. This is important so that you remain focused on some key elements scholars have missed. It will go against what is taught in this world order, but this witness is not of this world order. The silver on the image is covering the chest area and the two arms. The two arms are representing the two nations of the Bear, Madai, and Paras. Daniel was currently residing in that kingdom for the rest of the visions that he received, and we will look at them all and their meanings as Elohim wills. Madai and Paras, as we looked at in the previous video, together represent the soul, according to their combined meaning in the concordances, the pure and splendid Middle Land. Today that country is called Iran, but during the time of the prophecy, the two nations within that country corresponded to the silver. H3701 is chesef. The verb means to long after and yearn for. So this is something that affects the heart and its emotions. And of course, the heart is situated within the chest area of the silver. Silver, like gold, has to be refined as well. So just as the head was refined, so the heart has to be refined to test what you say you believe in your heart. So let's begin by getting some more info on the silver and show the first verse that identifies with it. But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours. As silver is inferior to gold, so the heart is a little lower than the head. So we have here a new King of Kings and a kingdom with all the power, strength, and esteem needed to govern the known world at that time. And according to the prophecy that came with this verse, wherever the children of men dwell, and the beasts of the field, and the birds of the Shemaim, he has given them into some other hands now, and has made this kingdom ruler over them all. So let's bring this image to life to find out what needs to be refined. And for that, we have to go to the vision Daniel has in chapter 7, where he wrote down the vision that he had, telling the main facts about this beast. The Hebrew word for beast is chaya. Chaya means life. In this vision, he sees a bear. Let's find out what's going on in the life of this bear. I'm going to narrate a little down to verse 5 because we've already covered much of this gleaning on the gold. He saw in the vision by night, meaning a difficult time in history, as the four winds of the Shemaim were stirring up the great sea. The four winds are giving breath to the beast. And the four great beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. Whenever the scripture speaks of a great anything, it is usually referencing something that has to do with a spiritual matter, like worship, whether it be spoken or it could be some action. In either case, there are spiritual implications associated with it that make it great, and it usually affects the crown of salvation. This is a Gentile worship using the word of Elohim as evidenced by the four winds, four associating with the Mizbeach, for the sacrifices offered to Yahuwah Elohim written by Moshe in the Torah. So let's see what's different about this beast that needs to be refined. So down in Daniel chapter 7, verse 5, and suddenly another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it, arise, devour much flesh. Now we know why Daniel had to go through the lions then in chapter 6. Having come into the reign of the bear under Darius, who took control from King Belshazzar of Babel, the idea was to devour the flesh in order to destroy the soul. But Daniel did not get devoured because he kept the covenant of Yahuwah in the face of danger, as we saw in the previous video. The covenant preserves the soul. The life of the flesh is in the blood, and therein lies the soul, which is the heart of the matter. The bear is threatening the flesh to test the heart. The bear is an unclean animal. Vayikra 11:27 reads concerning the unclean animals and whatever goes on its paws, among all kinds of animals that go on all fours, those are unclean to you. Whoever touches any such carcass shall be unclean until evening. Meaning whatever the religious beliefs the Gentiles promoted during the time of this bear is to be steered clear of. Don't follow those religious practices. During that time, they followed the Zoroastrian religion, which is based largely off of a monotheistic concept. Like any other religion today, is a spin-off loosely based on the things Elohim has established in Yisrael. Only they have different names to worship. This animal is a bear. Dog is bear in Hebrew. And the root of that word is H1680. It means to move gently, to glide. So we have to be extra careful here because of the way the bear is moving, and seriously consider the fact that it has already devoured something and is now walking away with the ribs. We need to find out what that is and why it shows up here as something important to see in the vision. Unlike the other beasts with wings, this bear did not lift up anything to be worshipped, nor did the bear exalt itself to be worshipped. This also makes it inferior to the lion, which was the first beast that had 2 wings of an eagle and lifted up the gold image. This one is raised up, and it is only raised up on one side. As is the arms on the image of the beast, so this beast has 2 sides to it. Only one is raised up, likely where the heart is, meaning this beast has come with a purpose. It is groomed, and it is following the orders given to it by the one talking to it. Of all the beasts, this is the only one that was spoken to. They are no doubt Malachim in the verse executing orders from on high. But from who is the question? You see it in the verse. They said thus to it, arise, devour much flesh. And it was raised up with 3 ribs already in its mouth. So this bear has devoured something already. Okay, before we even get to the next beast. As we get down to the heart of the matter, we know the ribs cover the heart and the lungs, so this is something serious going on here. The heart and the lungs are necessary for life, which threatens the soul. A message is being sent from on high because the only one raising up anything concerning life is Yahuwah Elohim, and he alone judges the heart. So the danger lurking here is far worse than what is on the surface that can devour the flesh. Keep in mind the earlier chapters having given us a test run about the furnace of tribulation for refining seen in the kingdom of Babel, and now here in Madai and Peres, those signs and wonders were previews, if you will, of how false religion is going to be used to devour our flesh. Things to come for our time is being set up right here in these verses. This is a serious thing this beast is coming to do. It brings emotional terror, designed to devour you spiritually from the inside. This thing is coming to reign in terror because of the supernatural influence that governs it. It is the only beast that actually displays physical harm. There's so much to glean from this. Yahuwah Elohim is showing this vision, and showing this vision is showing us something that will set the stage for the rest of all who will be born in history. The Gentiles will not follow his will by choice, and in their rebellion, he is using them to set up their own destruction by building a furnace, a place to be refined. We will all have knowledge of his truth, and we will all be exposed to the same religious order established by the Gentiles. Such is the Kashdima. They pass through as well. Okay? Who will use the word of Elohim to oppose the will of Elohim to lead us astray in our heart, using deception. And this is what devours us. And this world kingdom is a prime example of that. So they here in the verse are no doubt Malachim, good or bad. It does not say in this verse. However, Daniel has another vision that will reveal this as a demonic influence. Okay? We will find this in that vision. Okay? We will get to that a little later. We can tell a lot about this particular bear by the teeth here. H8128 is shame. It is the tooth. The root is corresponding to H8127, which is a sharp tooth. However, it is the verb that is most interesting, H8150. It means to teach sharply and incisively. With this, we discern the teaching will be used to facilitate the devouring of the flesh. We discern by the teeth, this beast is intelligent. And along with being supernaturally influenced with that command, the bear's intelligence is magnified. This is speaking to his mental process. Intelligent, analytical, and clear thinking. Accurate and sharply focused. And the focus seems to be on the ribs in his mouth here. So let's take a look at that. This Aramaic word for ribs has Hebrew origins. H6763 is Selah. It is used of the ribs of man. It is overwhelmingly used as the side or beams of something. The word is extensively used in the building plans of the house of Elohim given to Moshe. So this has a dual meaning, and both apply here. We know the house of Elohim was systematically torn down by the king of Babel. Yet it was later rebuilt under the authority of the Gentiles represented by this bear. And the plans written in the Torah were used to build it. So the bear appears to be going to do the building as well. There is some good going on here and some bad. So we need some more information to discern this vision, okay, as it relates to the bear. Because this is about as close to the fire of judgment as one can get. None of the other beasts in the vision display this propensity for violence. Daniel asks to know more about what is going on here in the later verses of this vision, which we will get to when the time comes for those gleaning. Because more was given to him in the form of another vision. And then in still another vision, even more was made known. So we're now going to look at the other two visions to discern who and what is going on with this bear. Nothing else is found here. So we're going to move on in Daniel chapter 8. More was given, but we will only look at what is given with the silver as it relates to the bear, because we're dealing with the heart of the matter as it relates to the covenant of Yahuwah Elohim. The bear was given a command, and something appears to have died. But it does not say the command was from Elohim, yet the bear has authority over the things of Elohim and seems to do a good thing. Appears he was executing both. Daniel had two visions under the reign of King Belshazzar of Babel related to this bear. This one in chapter 8 appears to give answers to his questions about what he saw in chapter 7. So I'm going to list the verse in chapter 8 and then narrate a little. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me the first time. I saw in the vision, and it happened while I was looking, that I was in Shushan, the Beerah, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in the vision that I was by the river Oleh. Then I lifted my eyes and saw there standing beside the river was a ram, which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, so that no animal could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, suddenly a male goat came from the west, across the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between its eyes. So 2 contenders are here to give clarity to the vision of the 4 beasts. This vision deals with only 2 of the 4. The vision appeared to Daniel. He leaves no doubt about that, saying it several times in one sentence. It appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me the first time. It is saying that of him because he is being poured out as a drink offering that will begin here in this vision and continue through the generations in its fulfillment to be determined as a judgment against the Gentiles and have its culmination at the end of the days when all of the visions are fulfilled. So war begins in this Gentile reign. And whenever Bnei Yisrael went to war, the standard of the tribe of Dan always brought up the rear guard. And this is why the survey lines have seen fit to lead us here to gather our brother as we make our way into the book of Chazon to execute the Edut of Yahuwah. In verse 2, Daniel was in Shushan the Beerah, a place of joy. He was in a safe place, in a province. The Hebrew word used is Medina for province. H4082 is there. This is a district of contention. Sounds like these 2 are contentious and rebellious at the same time, dueling in a place called Elam, which means eternity. This is where the life of the soul is destined. The verb means to conceal or hide. This is the hidden part of the life of the bear that people can't see. Things going on in the hidden places of the heart. Something the bear has done, and in doing it affects eternal salvation in a destructive way, because the place was called Elim, eternity. Okay, he was in the province of Elim by the river. Okay, let's look at this word for river for a minute. This river leads to the grave. H180, Obal, is a river. The verb means to bear along. How about that? To be borne to the grave. So this is disturbing. It is used in the sense of irrigating. This is a water supply here. But the supply, according to these words, are deadly, like that of a flood. So this river is deadly. The name of the river was called Oleh. H195 means my leaders or my mighty ones. So something is out to put his leaders to death. So let's put all this together. What is about to happen in this chapter will flow according to this summary. There are 2 contenders for the everlasting crown of salvation to contend for the everlasting joy established by the mighty one of Israel. They will use the things of Yahuwah Elohim to deceive you in your heart and lead you like a river headed to destruction. The floodwaters of the Gentile kingdoms are designed to put the leaders of the covenant to death. The covenant is involved, and there are some things going on that will prevent us from being saved if we're not paying attention. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar started things off by going through the refining process as an example for the rest of history. Okay, now starts for the rest of all who will be born in history with this bear, as I mentioned before, because the bear was already unclean, but then it received dangerous instructions, and the vision gets interesting as the bear is gently gliding along here. So let's talk about this ram here. It plays out here with a ram and a goat in the verse. There are two animals identified as clean. For it is written, among the animals, whatever divides the hoof, having cloven hooves and chewing the cud, that you may eat. So the ram and the goat are fair game. For now, we're only going to deal with the ram as it relates to the bear and the silver. We will get to the goat when we get to the bronze. The ram is associated with the hidden things the bear is doing. We know this because Gabriel has already alerted us to this fact that the ram having the two horns are the kings of Badai and Paras. Okay? See it in the verses down below here. It may even be the ram's ribs in his mouth. So whatever happened, the bear did it. This is something hidden that begins to explain why this bear was spoken to. Eileen was by the river Ole, meaning my leaders and my mighty ones. So whatever happened here has seriously offended the things Daniel worshipped and the leaders of his people. So this is something Daniel can relate to, his leaders and mighty ones that he worshiped. His diet was covenant related. In order to keep him and help him to see the things a little better, the vision is given according to something he can relate to, which is the covenant diet. Turns out the covenant was something that the ram and the goat were contending for. Only they were contending for the crown of salvation in an unclean manner to change something that is forbidden to be changed in the covenant. They were contending. It was contentious, a heated disagreement maintained in an argument. Such is the province of Medina. He says, I lifted my eyes and saw there, standing beside the river, was a ram, which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. So it's a ram here. This is just something to help Daniel discern the spiritual truth he could not otherwise see in the other vision. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward so that no animal could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Daniel gets assistance to understand the vision from the warrior of Elohim, down in verse 20. Then he says, the ram which you saw having the two horns, they are the kings of Badai and Paras. So the covenant's under attack by two animals that are used in the covenant sacrifices of Yahuwah Elohim that have redeeming value. The ram and the goat. One brings life and the other takes away sin. Both are needed. There are two contenders, and both of these animals are established by Elohim for covenant purposes. The ram, H352, I yield, is used of a strong leader, a chief. It is also used in the sacrifices of Elohim. It is a sacrifice to a position of prominence. The ram was used as peace offerings to Yahuwah and for Aharon and his Banim to serve as Kohanim to Elohim forever. It was a kukwat olam, a statute forever. Let's not forget about the promise Elohim made to Abraham that required him to replace the offering of his only Ben Yitzchak with a ram caught in a thicket. So the ram is an acceptable offering. Apparently, this ram represented an important part in the redemptive plan in the ancient records. Okay? Redemptive plan in the ancient records that got taken out of the picture during this pivotal time in history by the religious authorities of the bear. The bear represented the people. This ram is identifying a spiritual man of prominence, specifically established by Yahuwah Elohim in a prophecy that the religious people of the bear would eventually destroy by omission. Okay? That's the first thing they did. The religious authorities were none other than the Kashdibah, who were Aramaic. It occurred in the birth records. Yahushua was among those who returned to build the house of Yahuwah that was torn down by the king of Babel. Haggai and Zechariah prophesied to Zerubbabel and Yahushua ben Yehozadak, who was the Kohen Haggadah. But his name never appeared in the list of those who returned recorded in the book of Nehemiah nor Ezra. Okay? Even wiped it out in the Hebrew text in favor of Yeshua. You're not going to find it. It was sabotage. They tried to kill the baby before it was even conceived by destroying his name from the birth records of those who returned from the captivity. That's why Daniel says he was in Eilim by the river Olay. He knew of this prophecy of his mighty ones and what it meant for salvation without those names. That's why it reads down at the end of this chapter in verse 27, Daniel fainted and was sick for days after seeing this vision, and he rose and went about the king's business. He says, I was astonished by the vision, but no one understood it. But now you do. Yeshua is no good. The ram is clean. That was the first ram that got taken out by that bear. The ram is clean, and so is the goat, but the bear is not. However, the bear was sent to help, but not in the way one might expect. The bear is unclean because of what is going on here in the heart concerning the covenant. Okay, we will get to that as we go on into the other visions, particularly in the 70-week prophecy there we're going to get to, and we will go into more detail in a follow-up video to this one. But bear all these things in mind that I am showing you, and you will have perfect knowledge when we get all that Daniel saw found in the other visions. Now let's talk about these two horns for a minute, because I truly believe this is overlooked by most, if not all, of this world order. So please listen closely to find out why. The whole of chapter 8 is dual in its nature, not just the part about the goat, which everyone has focused on throughout history. We only need to look at verse 15 and 20 to see this important piece of evidence. Okay? I'm going to read there. It says, then it happened when I, Daniel, had seen here the Aleph Tav vision. The mark of the accusative is on the vision. And was seeking the meaning, that suddenly there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. It's not just any man. This was the Aleph Tav man. The mark of the accusative was on this man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, who called and said, Gabriel, make this man understand the Aleph Tav vision. Mark of the accusative is there on the vision again. This is a vision regarding the Aleph Tav, who is none other than Yahushua. It is a picture of the same thing that was done in the beginning of Chazon, the revelation, when he sent and signified by his Malach all that was given to him by Elohim. Okay? So he came near where I stood, And when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face, just like Yochanan did. But he said to me, understand, Ben of Adam, that the vision refers to the time of the end, which is where we are headed in the adut. Okay? The whole vision, not just the part about the goat. This ram is headed that way as well for the time of the end. How can the goat be great if he has no competition? Verse 18 now reads, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep with my face to the ground, and he touched me and stood me upright. He even wakes him up at the appointed time here because Daniel's going to be poured out in the end for sure, okay? Which is why we have been sent to make this known. And he said, look, I am making known to you what shall happen in the latter time of the indignation. For at the appointed time the end shall be. The ram which you saw having the two horns, they are the kings of Madai and Paras. This is the first occurrence, okay? This is the first occurrence, meaning there is a demonic influence operating behind the scenes of the bear. And we will find out when the appointed time is and who is driving this in another vision. Okay, we'll see all of that yet in another vision. Right now, these horns also represent the spiritual call to the name of Koresh. Let me say that again. These horns also represent the spiritual call to the name of Koresh. Because first and foremost, something has to be set up to judge the Gentiles. And these horns represent the leaders of the bear who set things up. Okay, remember, it is because of a refining process that we have been led here to glean. That name was prophesied to come by Yeshayahu in chapter 44 to execute the words in chapter 45. Okay, you can go there and read it when you get a chance. Yeshayahu, chapter 44 and chapter 45. Just like Gabriel said, the ram with the two horns represent the kingdom of Madai and Paras. And so the ram also represented a strong leader. We saw that before. It's used of a strong leader, chief, or prominence. They, like most rulers back then, went by the title of King of Kings. Koresh ruled both Madai and Paras. He ruled Paras beginning in 559 BC, and 10 years later he was named King of Kings of Madai in 549 BC. He is also the ram. Madai and Paras were often at war for dominion of what is known today as Iran, as I mentioned before, who has a lot to answer for of late. One ruled according to the earliest historical record of the Achaemenid dynasty called Koresh I. Okay, you can find this information online in the historical records of the monarchs of Iran. There were two rulers called by the name of Koresh. Okay, they were kings, Koresh I and his grandson, Koresh the Great. Here for the vision, they too are represented by the two horns of the ram. Both were high, meaning they were both kings, but one was higher than the other. Koresh the Great obviously became greater than his grandfather by the same name. The reason why Yahuwah Elohim chose that name to execute his will is found in the meaning of the name Koresh. His name means, possess thou the furnace. This is the place for refining, judgment. It will be used to refine the Gentiles in order to judge who is worthy to be saved, based on how they relate to his word. And yes, they are expected to adhere to the same standards as B'nai Yisrael. And this furnace is what is going to be used to refine them as well. It will be their turn to go through the refining process of the tribulation in history and the great tribulation in Revelations, to see how they respond to the great and awesome name of Yahuwah Elohim. Notice the territory he was given: westward, northward, and southward, so that no animal could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. He was pushing something. Okay, this is the area that encompasses the territory of Israel, Iran being located somewhat east of Israel. So the expansion of the ram's territory covered the area originally given to the 12 tribes. He was pushing a religion. The horns also refer to Koresh and the things he proclaimed that was part of his prominence, prophesying something to come. He was anointed, called a Mashiach by Yahuwah in Yeshayahu chapter 45. This excited the people. This ram was given a command from on high, and he executed it with full power. And that's what the ram was pushing. The command was to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, set the captives free. He made sure the articles were taken from the king of Babel's treasuries and returned them to Jerusalem, and commanded great favor from him to be given to the people from every kingdom abroad for safe passage to rebuild the house of Elohim. King Koresh gave of his own treasuries and commanded favor to be given to everyone who needed anything to pay for whatever was needed to resume the sacrifices. And he went about letting everybody know that. It was seen in the proclamation he made in the first year he was made king. You can read about it in the book of Ezra, first chapter. Okay? All hands on deck. Yahuwah is going to use his people to help set it up. First, he has to bring them home to help rebuild. But make no mistake about it, the Gentiles will run it. And that is going to be a huge problem, because if you recall from the beginning of this chapter, destruction was by the river. Nevertheless, it turned out to be part of the plan of Elohim to use the bear. Let him be raised up for the purpose of rebuilding the furnace to devour much flesh. Okay, flesh that includes the people of the bear. Tampering with the word of Scripture is false religion, no matter how you do it. And that will be its downfall. It's a mirror image of what we saw with Azariah, Mishael, and Hananiah, what they went through in Babel, when Nebuchadnezzar threw them in the burning furnace that was made 7 times hotter than normal. Same setup, another way. False religion is your furnace now. Okay? So the prophecy of Koresh, let's talk about that. That name Koresh was also given a command from on high, just like the bear. Only Yahuwah personally spoke to Koresh. Okay, this is the horn that was higher than the other. Okay, Yahuwah did not personally speak to the bear. Okay, his name is recorded in Yeshayahu chapter 45, speaking of Koresh. Okay. To highlight these horns here. Now we will deal with the higher one that came up last. This is found in Daniel chapter 10. I'm just going to narrate. Okay. Research to help you in your studies. And that's why we're dealing with Madai and Paras right now, so that you don't get confused and miss this ram. This vision in chapter 8 was given 2 years later than the one in chapter 7, because Daniel had serious questions about the vision in chapter 7. This vision in chapter 8 mainly deals with the question that he desperately wanted to know because of what he saw in chapter 7. So people think because chapter 8 mainly deals with the goat, the ram, it's not that important. And so the ram is overlooked. But we have to keep in mind the Yawani, or the Greeks, defeated the kingdom of Madai and Peres, but Alexander the Great did not defeat Koresh the Great to take over. Alexander defeated Darius III in a later time, and at that time the Greeks took over. So the spirit of Koresh lives on, and the furnace burns on. The ram did not die in the vision. He merely got cast to the ground and trampled. He plays a submissive role in an evil plot, because the verse records the higher one came up last. So this is not the end of the story for the ram. There is still a higher one that comes up last. Okay? Kind of like the 3 ribs in his mouth. We only dealt with the fact that the 2 horns were high and one was higher than the other. The spirit of the higher one came up last. This is what others have missed. It is evil and deadly. Yahuwah spoke to Koresh and called him by name. He did not speak to this last horn. In fact, he sent something to fight against it in Daniel chapter 10. Okay? What is played out here will be played out again another way by another strong man or prominent leader executing the same powers of prophecy. His power will be based on the covenant of Yahuwah, and it will definitely affect the governing nation who controls the land of Israel at that time, as well as those who worship there and the surrounding regions. This one will actually be possessed by a demon, although not at first. This verse is how we know this, and this is what most people fail to understand in this vision. So now we're going to go to a place where we can see this. Okay? It's found in Daniel chapter 10. Okay? Daniel chapter 10 is where we'll find the evil spirit of this thing. In the book of Daniel, you can get your scriptures and read along. We'll survey this when you get some time there. It's where we find the evil spirit of this thing. I'm just going to narrate down to the end. It's the same one that spoke to the bear. Daniel has another vision in chapter 10 in the 3rd year of Koresh, king of Paras. In the 3rd year of Koresh, king of Paras, okay, this is the 3rd horn, 3rd year of King Koresh, the higher one that came up last. It's what this vision is mainly about. Okay? I'm going to help you see something in this verse. The demon is not found. The demon is found in this chapter in verse 13 and 20. Okay? It is called the Prince or Tsar of Paras. It's a very powerful being, and a lot of people are going to be blindsided when this thing hits and go after one of, if not the worst spiritual disasters known to man. It will be so bad that the days have to be cut short, or no flesh would survive. Verse 1 indicates this by Daniel while he was still in Babel under the name of Belteshazzar. The message was true, but the appointed time was long. And he understood the message and had understanding of the vision. Verse 2 reveals it will be a time of mourning when this thing hits. Verse 3 reveals it will be a time of scarcity of food and drink. Not a good time for those who oppose this thing. Verse 4 reveals the appointed time this will occur. It will be during the time of the counting of the Omer. and it will happen rapidly because of the river Chedichel, which is believed to be the Tigris in the verse. Okay, the time of counting the Omer is a time of spiritual awakening. That is why the appearance of the supernatural being is seen and described in verse 5 and 6. Verse 7 reveals it will be a time of great terror and people will flee to hide themselves. Verse 16 declares it will be a time of sorrow. All of this he experienced just seeing the vision. Okay, just seeing the vision. Verse 17 reveals there will be a loss of life. Overall, this will be a frightful time in history when this thing hits. He received the vision during the time of the counting of the Omer. They were down by the river. This is the time of the immersions, and a messenger was sent with an urgent message for us, those who did not see the vision. Daniel saw one thing in verse 5 and 6, but what is to come will be something else. This is important here. Okay? He's seen a malach that was sent to help him understand how this thing was going to play out, and he's experiencing everything as though this were the evil one. Okay? Doing great signs and wonders in the Shemayim. And he, like the one Daniel saw, will have a message as well. Talking about this demon. The message will not strengthen you, as Daniel was strengthened in his spirit seen in verse 8. It won't do that. Regarding his message, death is seen in verse 9. In verse 10, the hand of the demon will torment the soul. And verse 11 reveals this thing will be fearful. Daniel stood trembling. Verse 12 is perhaps the most devastating of all. The demon will appear to be sent from Elohim. And that is confirmed in verse 13, where we see a supernatural battle being waged. Verse 14 confirms all these things will happen to the people in the latter days. And after many days, it seems closer now than ever. It will be a time of great uncertainty and confusion. Verse 15. Verse 15, he was in total disbelief and overwhelmed in verse 16 and totally confused in verse 17. In fact, verse 18 and 19 show us Daniel witness a supernatural glimpse of what it will be like in the presence of this particular event in history. That's what those verses were all about. The rest of the verses bring spiritual clarity to the battles that will continue. Everything going on in that chapter is what it will be like when this thing comes on the scene. It will cause people to go through the same things that he experienced. He wanted to know, and here it is in chapter 10. The message is this. This thing will be out for your soul and will take vengeance if its message is not received. This thing means business, and it's doing things in high places we cannot see. Can't see it. All we will know is something is not right. Human hands will have no power over this thing. It will be hard for us to detect it. Hard to detect. We see now it took 4 visions to get to this thing before it's finally realized and understood by Daniel. And I am absolutely positive you have not heard it like this. And it's only by the favor of Elohim that he is revealing this through the Edut. It's not declared like this. So declare it to all the assemblies. As for this spiritual world order, they won't have a clue that this is Revelation chapter 13. One of the most feared chapters in all of Yochanan's vision. So remember the name of Yahushua. There's no other name given under Shemayim among men by which we must be saved. Therefore, let no one deceive you in your immersions, especially with the name of Yeshua or any other name. Those names are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. They're not written. This is the only one of the beasts that was spoken to. That's why we see him in Chazon, Revelation chapter 13. You can go there, verse 11, where another beast coming up out of the earth arises. And he had 2 horns like a lamb ram, and spoke like a dragon, rising even higher, doing more great signs and wonders. This is the one that shows up and forces everyone to take the mark of the beast. His demonic power is on full display here. Of course, Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 through 11 is the chapter dedicated to the furnace. Yeah, dedicated to the furnace. So Koresh is alive and well. But at this point, you have now been warned of what is coming. Teach this to the assemblies, especially to those who follow Adonai Yahushua. I have come in the name of Yahuwah Elohim, therefore the Ruach of Yahuwah Elohim has come upon you. It is to your benefit if you teach this in his name. Okay? You will not find this understanding in this world order. If Elohim wills, we will finish this next time, beginning with the command to Koresh and finish off the gleaning for the bear with the 70-week prophecy in Daniel chapter 9. Todah, thank you so much for watching with us here at Sarid. Gird yourself and see that no one deceives you, because we are living in a time of great deception in high places. Hold fast to the things that we have witnessed to through the years, and Yahuwah will show you great favor. If you have questions or concerns regarding the information that was revealed here in this video, by all means, send us an email or share a comment of support down below in the box. Yah willing, we will gather again in the next lesson. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpat, Lehitrot. See you later.